All right, pleased to be joined by my guy, Mike Hart. Mike did an incredible job filling in for me while I was playing hooky last week. And Mike, I got to be honest, I did not think we'd be sitting here on a Monday night recording a special episode for Tuesday. I mean, I thought Tuesday morning there was no chance we were recording a podcast. Like, we're playing out the strings, but here we are, the Reds holding a playoff spot with 6 games to play. One of the most unbelievable months of September with every high and low that you could imagine. But Mike, here we are, everything in front of the Reds. The Reds control their own destiny.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. I think I did the Sunday show after we got swept by the A's with Trace, and we were just kind of like, well, this is, I think we talked for an hour and 25 minutes about how not only this season feels terrible, but next year feels bad too, because we didn't know what was going to change. So to see how in a week, basically, our fortunes have changed because this team decided to sweep the Cubs and the Mets continued to allow us to go back in, man. It's been great to see. I'm just excited for what we're going to be able to experience here in this next week. These are going to be absolutely playoff games that it feels like we still got to win every single one of them. I'm excited. I'm going down to the ballpark hopefully on Thursday with my boys. I'm ready to go experience that atmosphere for sure.
Well, a lot of incredible energy. At least it felt like that on social media. Definitely a push from the Reds, from the players, from a lot of fans. A lot of good dudes out there, like our friend Greg Reds Daily. I saw was starting a little ticket giveaway, and I saw some other people have contributed in that. And I really hope there's great crowds Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Thursday, a day game for the Reds. Hopefully, there's some good crowds because this is the biggest series in the history of Great America Ballpark in terms of the regular season. I had some people that fought with me on that on social media, but they're wrong. I'm sorry. This is the biggest series. I don't really. People say in 2010, I mean, they had a 5-game lead, 6-game lead with 6 games to play. They could have lost every single game and still would have made it because the Cardinals would have lost. So this is the biggest, the most at stake of any series in the regular season in the history of Great American Ballpark. Um, Mike, let's run through just because I'm sure there's a lot of people that it's fine. I'm not here to judge. I'm sure a lot of people that just checked out on the Reds that aren't like us sickos that have been watching everything every single day all year long. Said, the Reds are done. We'll follow back up in spring training 2026. Well, let's kind of run through exactly where the Reds are at right now. So the Reds are officially tied with the New York Mets, both teams 80 and 76 for the third and final wild card spot. They do have the Diamondbacks 1 game behind them at 79 and 77. The Giants, as we record this, are 3 games back. They are actually playing right now. So they could be 2.5 or 3.5 back as you wake up. The Marlins and Cardinals, they're both 4 back. We're not really going to spend any time focus on the Giants, Marlins, and Cardinals because if they somehow get into the picture, it's because the Reds crap the bed. And so we're not going to waste our energy on that. But the Reds hold the tiebreaker over the Mets because the Reds won the head-to-head series. The Reds also hold the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks because they won the head-to-head series. The Reds could, if everything went wrong, lose the tiebreaker to the Giants, but it's unlikely. If any scenario where multiple teams end up tied, the Reds win that tiebreaker. So the Reds are absolutely 100% in the driver's seat. If the Reds go 6-0, no one can pass them. If the Reds go 5-1, the Mets would have to go 6-0 to pass them. The Diamondbacks cannot. If the Reds go 4-2, the Mets would have to go 5-1 or better. The Diamondbacks would have to go 6-0, just to kind of give you an idea of the driver's seat that the Reds are in. And Mike, how do you feel? So let's go through the odds. The odds are very sporadic. Fangraph says 42%. Baseball Reference says 48%. Bakota, they really hate the Reds, 38%. ESPN, the worldwide leader, 64%. And the one that I think is the most important, the sports books say minus 135. That's about a 58% conversion. and I typically trust Vegas over just about anything else. So this, to me, Mike, is probably the first time all year. I'm talking after the game on Sunday. This is the first time all year that I felt that the Reds had a better than 50% chance of making the playoffs. Throw the odds away. Like opening day, I felt maybe like it was 40, 45%, but I don't think I ever thought maybe when they started off like 4-2, maybe I would have gone up then. But at least since April, I don't think I felt that the Reds were ever in a position where I felt more confident than not that they wouldn't make the playoffs. Am I crazy?
No, I'm with you. I always wonder, what's the difference here? I've done a little bit of digging into how some of these percentages have come about. So there's obviously they take into account their strength of schedule left, right? But then they take into account where you stand, right? So the fact that we own a position right now is definitely going to help our odds. But then still, even all the way to the end, so much of these percentages are kind of based on their the overall projections or their priors that they have for it. And so it would make sense the Mets, who were projected far more wins, I'm not sure how many more, they're still hanging on, even with what we've seen them go through, having lost 2 out of 3 from the Mets, or from the Nats, and then now having to play another playoff team, the Cubs. So I think where we see these variations is simply on, where they see us were projected wise. So, like you said, Pacoda, I think or at least this year, had projections for the Reds, maybe I think in last place, maybe even behind the Pirates going into the season. So it doesn't surprise me that they would have lower odds just because their projections of the Reds don't seem to be very high. But to me, those seem right with what around that area that we're seeing seems to be where I stand. Just because maybe it's because you say you're about 50%. I'd say I'm like right at the middle, 50-50, just because I feel like the hurt of 35 years of being a Reds fan is still in here, with like expecting the worst. I know you read off all of the tiebreakers and things like that, and that's great. And we play this team that's not in the playoffs, but it's just like, oh boy, I've seen this. Like I can very easily see it in my head. The Reds, lose it here, and we go in for another just unbelievably heartbreaking season. But I can also see, hey, this is a team that just 4 games swept a playoff team, and it's like we've put ourselves in a position where even if we say we go 4-2, we win both series, like that puts us in a very, very good position for making the playoffs, because the Mets and the Diamondbacks are going to have to jump us in order to do that. So I'd say I'm right at 50-50, and probably logically I'd be above 50, but where my heart's pulling me back, just because maybe I don't want to get hurt again. So I think I agree with you. Right around that is right around your, maybe the 58% is probably the more accurate projection, I would say, or one that I would believe the most. But boy, I'm in no way counting my chickens for the playoffs, because boy, there's too many things that can change before the end of the season, even only with 6 games left.
Yeah, it's a 6-game. I mean, it's a 6-game sprint, and it's 6 games in baseball. Anything can happen. And we'll break down, who the Reds are playing, who the other teams are playing. We'll do all that in today's show. But I mean, you throw a lot of it out the window. It's just who plays the best over 6 games, who gets the breaks. And sometimes in 6 games, things are out of your control. You could play a great baseball game and the ball bounces the wrong way, or you have one guy that just makes a bad error, that could help you or hurt you. It could be one or the other. But shout out to Pacoda. They projected the Reds to win 73.5 games before the year. The Reds are at 80 right now, so they can take that 37.5% playoff odds and shove it. Shout out to you, Pacoda. Yeah, I typically, I'm a guy that says Vegas. Like if Vegas says 58%, that's where my head's going to be at. I think it's probably close to that. Vegas is they make a lot of money on their odds for a reason. So I'm gonna kind of stick with that. But yeah, I mean it is anyone's game. The one thing that it kind of, and this is a little total side thing, but I'm a college basketball fan and I root for the Xavier Musketeers. All right. And I remember like going into the NCAA, this tournament selection show, like Vegas had Xavier as like minus, I think like 170 or something to be in the tournament. And all the bracketologists were like, there was less than 50% of them that had it in. And I'm like looking at these, I'm like, it doesn't feel like it's this good. And then sure enough, selection show, they were safely in the tournament. So I'm hoping that maybe the betting odds are better than maybe the emotion of this. And that's just kind of where I'm going to blindly say. But again, it's 6 games. Winning the first one is a huge deal, and then you keep going from there. There is nothing better than September baseball and grilling out, and I've started using Omaha Steaks for all my grilling needs. And now, during their Red Hot Sale event, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $35 off with the promo code Chatterbox at checkout. It's so great to have steaks, hamburgers, and gourmet hot dogs always in my freezer, ready to go. It's so convenient for me to go online and order. I like the value freezer filler package to stay stocked up. The steaks are perfectly aged, hand-cut, and USDA certified tender. The burgers are mouth-watering and grass-fed, but don't sleep on the gourmet hot dogs. They are seriously the best hot dogs I've ever had. Plus, they also carry chicken, pork, seafood, and fantastic desserts. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Red Hot Sale event. And for an extra $35 off, use our promo code Chatterbox at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code Chatterbox, CHETTERBOX, at checkout. See site for details. All right, before we get into previewing this Pirates series for the Reds, we'll talk a little bit more about the next team they play, the Brewers. We had like a 2-hour show on Chatterbox Reds on Sunday night. We talked about literally anything and everything. One guy we didn't get to talk about is Tony Santillan. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about him and just an appreciation of this guy this season. He's not going to be the MVP. A guy in a bullpen's never the MVP of the team, but he's not that far off. Like he's one of the top 5, 6, 7 guys that put the Reds in this position. And an incredible story. He was a higher prospect for the Reds at one point. Thought he was maybe a potential solid starting pitching option for the Reds. Had some injuries. Actually, at one point got designated for assignment. Every team across baseball passed on Tony Santillan, and they're regretting it right now because he's just had an incredible year. And Mike, I know you did a deep dive, and before you give it to you on Tony Santillan, this is one thing, little side tangent here, that I think baseball gets wrong the most. When we talk about the next collective bargaining agreement and we're talking about players getting paid and all of that, guys like Tony Santillan are the guys that get screwed in all of these talks. Buck Farmer's a guy too. Buck Farmer, who pitched his tail off for the Reds the last couple of years, never has gotten paid for it. I mean, he made a couple $1,000,000, which I mean, I know to us slums at home seems like a lot, but in terms of baseball and these guys, a lot of times their families and their wives have to travel or don't have to, but they want to travel, and there's a lot of expenses that go into that. But I feel like Tony Santillan is the guy that gets screwed in that, and maybe Santillan will end up being able to be a dominant reliever for 10 years and he'll get to free agency and get a big contract, but the odds are that he won't. So I'm going to at least do my part to make sure that we appreciate a guy like him because baseball doesn't appreciate him enough.
Yeah, they're very dependent on some of those basic numbers, those big round like saves, right? So for a relief pitcher, when you're doing these arbitration evaluations as you get closer to your free agency, they basically line you up and they say, well, okay, Tony Santillan, you know, according to these raw numbers, Emilio Pagan had a significantly better year than Tony Santillan because he has a bunch more saves. But I think from the eye test, anyone that's followed the Reds, even if you haven't really followed them closely, have seen that actually Tony Santillan's the guy that I think Tito trusts the most in the biggest situations. Like we see him coming in the 8th against their 2, 3, 4 guys hey, we got guy on 2nd and 3rd, 1 out. Tony Santillan's the guy that we're bringing in because we need a big strikeout and we need to get out of this inning. And so I did some kind of a deep dive on some of these numbers just to see if it backs up what I think you and most Reds fans are seeing. And as we've kind of documented throughout this season, he's tied for the league lead in appearances, which is like no small feat. And frankly, for a reliever is like should be a bigger deal, right? Because just the availability, because guys that have lead the league in appearances, either you've been healthy and that means you've had to be healthy enough and pitched a ton and still been able to be productive. Because if you get pitched a ton, think Fernando Cruz, right? You get pitched a ton and then you get run into the ground, then you stop being effective and you stop being used. We even see maybe Scott Barlow falling into some of this year, right? So the fact that he's leading the league in appearances, I think is extremely impressive, just to say, off the bat. But I did a couple breakdowns of some of his splits. So on 0 days rest, so this is Tony Santillan having pitched the day before, which, we've seen some of these other relievers that the Reds have had struggle with this, but with 0 days rest, he's done that 27 times this year. Out of his 70-something appearances, 27 times he's come in on 0 days rest. His ERA is 1.82, which is the league average is around 3.87 for 0 days rest. So he has a 1.82 ERA with 21 strikeouts and 9 walks and a OPS plus against of 63. So remember with these plus metrics, 100 is average. And so when you're below 100, that actually means the hitter is performing worse. So if the hitter is performing, what is that? 37% worse than average when facing Tony Santillan on 0 days rest. And in my opinion, that's extremely impressive. Like that, on having pitched the day before, you're coming in and you're, having a 1.8 ERA with, almost double the number of strikeouts to walks. That's impressive. Then there's also the high leverage situations, right? We talk about how he's come in and has been able to get us out of jams, or comes in with a 1-run lead or a 2-run lead and is able to really hold it down and get us to the 9th or give us the save in high leverage situations, which, by the way, he has the most appearances like of low, medium, high leverage. He has the most appearances in high leverage situations. He has 31 strikeouts to only 13 walks, right? And an OPS plus against of 81. And to me, that's even more impressive because look at the Reds bullpen, right? Who do we send out in high leverage situations? That's our best bullpen arms, right? And other teams around the league also do that. So when compared against his other peers, not only his other peers that are in the relievers, but other peers that are being put into high leverage situation, he's still 19% better than average when it comes to OPS against. To me, that's impressive. It's just like other things that just back up what we're seeing, that Tony Santillan has been an invaluable piece to this bullpen, somebody who has been worked harder than anyone else in the league, and he continues to deliver, including finishing off the save in the 4-game sweep against the Chicago Cubs. So I'm with you, Nick. Tony Santillan deserves even more praise than he is going to get. He's not going to get a high number in arbitration because he doesn't have a bunch of saves, but boy, I am going to feel great about him coming into next year's bullpen as potentially our closer, or definitely as one of our high leverage relievers.
Yeah, Bob Castellini, if you're listening, I don't call you out very much. I want Tony Santillan to get a bonus check this year. Give my guy a bonus check. He deserves it. Poor guy's going to hit free agency at 31 years old. He probably won't ever get a big contract. Just the nature of it. So we're going to do our part to make sure he's appreciated and give this guy a bonus check. At least buy him a car or something. He deserves it. Great research there, Mike. I really appreciate that. All right, let's jump into previewing the Pittsburgh Pirates, the team that everyone wants to see with the Reds season on the line. One thing that we'll talk about a little bit here on this is this time of the year, who you're playing and when they're playing is so interesting. And there's so many different dynamics that go into this. So I like to try to say, take myself out of the Reds shoes and to try to put myself in the Pirates shoes. How would they approach the series? And Reds fans, we should know how a team would approach a series like this, because the Reds typically have been on the other side of this for most of our lifetimes. But for the Pirates, this is it for them. This is their playoffs. They play the Braves this weekend, and that series no one's going to care about. Not a single soul is going to care about, other than maybe Charlie Morton tipping his cap for the Braves if he pitches. That's it. I mean, so this is it. They have a chance to not knock the Reds out of the playoffs, but they have a chance to put a big dent in the Reds' postseason chances. They have a first-year manager, Don Kelly. He's a fiery guy, played for the Tigers, is a Pittsburgh guy. I think he's a native there. He's going to want to finish the year strong. So I don't think you're going to face a Pirates team that's going to come in and just be playing out the string. I think they're going to play motivated in this series. And for all the Pirates' flaws, I do feel like they have, for the most part, played pretty hard and haven't been a team that is necessarily a team that's just playing out the string or anything like that. A couple notes here on the Pirates. The Reds are 16-20 against the Pirates since 2023. That's bad news, but they are 9-6 at Great American Ballpark. Reds 6-4 so far this year. It's been a roller coaster with the Pirates. They won the first 4, lost the next 4, but the Reds have won the last 2. Pirates come in 67-89. They are just 3-13 in their last 16 games, but they won their last 2 games against the A's, including an 11-0 win on Sunday. But that is the exception to the rule with the Pirates. That was the first time they had scored more than 5 runs since September 2nd. And prior to that game, we're only averaging 2.4 runs per game over the last 16 games. Mike, how do you feel about this Pirates team? Do you agree like they're going to come in fired up for this series?
Oh yeah, I think for sure this is a team that absolutely could not be overlooked. This is somebody that wants to play spoiler. They understand the gravity of what we're experiencing in Cincinnati and would love to spoil that. So, yeah, this isn't going to be a team that's checked out. I mean, the fact that we're going to get Paul Skeens potentially in this series, it to me shows that it's like, hey, we're still trying to win games here. We're still trying to establish something. And Don Kelly, I don't know, did he get named the official manager? Or is he still the temporary manager?
He's the official manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, hey, we need, I want to put my stamp on this. I want to get some momentum moving into next year. Yeah, this is going to be a hard series. Like I bet the pitching is going to be great in this series, and it's going to come down to the bullpens, and we're going to have some close games, I think, coming into it for this whole 3-game series. So it's one of those where the Reds are going to need every edge they can get. And, having home field advantage, I think, is going to be helpful in that, if we can really pack the stands, if we can cause any bit of nerves, any issues with pitch comm, any whatever that's going to give the Reds an advantage, boy, we're going to need it, because I think that this is going to be a pretty close series that hopefully the Reds will be able to, play up to the standards that we know we can do. Play up to a team that, took 2 out of 3 from the Mets and from the Padres, and not play down and lose, like we did to the Athletics, right? So it's just like we've seen these fluctuations, and boy, they're going to need to be focused in here in order to be able to accomplish that for this series.
Yeah, the Pirates can really pitch. I mean, this is a team that pitching is not the reason they're not playing in the postseason this year. They have a postseason caliber pitching staff, and you may look at their bullpen and be like, "Yeah, I don't know who half those guys are," or you probably don't know who almost any of those guys are. But they actually have the best bullpen ERA, Mike, in the National League in the month of September. Number 1, their closer Dennis Santana, 1.06 ERA. In his last 17 games. Sunday, when they shut out the A's, that was the 19th time that the Pirates a team that's only won 67 games all year, the 19th time they've shut an opponent out. So that team could really pitch. I mean, what you have to expect in this series is you're probably going to win some ugly games. So if the Reds are like, if the offense is scratches across 2 runs and they win 2-1, don't be like, oh wow, that's a great win.
We'll
That's a
take it.
great win. I don't care if they win all 3 games 1-0. I mean, any way you can get it, because the Pirates can really pitch. They have figured that aspect out. They have not figured out the hitting. If you think the Reds' offense is bad, the Pirates are on an entire another planet in terms of just offensive futility. Pirates also making an interesting move before we talk about the pitchers in the series. They're calling up a top 100 prospect, left-handed pitcher Hunter Barco. He's the Pirates' number 4 prospect, number 86 in all of baseball. 2.81 ERA, striking out 11 batters per 9 innings and nearly 100 innings between AA and AAA. I'm assuming that he's going to be using relief, which is scary, a nasty left-handed reliever option, because they did announce all their starters for the series. I read that he had to be added to the 40-man roster this offseason. So this is more of a move that you had to make in the next couple weeks. And I think they maybe had an opportunity. Maybe they had an open 40-man spot and say, hey, we'll throw him on the roster. So it's maybe not necessarily a guarantee that he actually for sure gets in a game, although I would think they're probably going to want to. And they actually only have one lefty in their pen. So that's another weapon for them. So he's a wild card to see in this series to watch out for. But Tuesday's starting pitcher, if you're listening to this on Tuesday morning, the pitcher that the Reds will see tonight, Johan Oviedo, 2-0, 3.52 ERA in 7 starts. He returned on August 4th after missing nearly 2 seasons with Tommy John surgery. Had really been dominating his first 6 starts. Last start, though, did go up 2 home runs and 4 earned runs in 5 innings against the Cubs. But this is a guy the Pirates are very high on. Has a good fastball, slider and sinker, both effective. The website Pitcher List compared his recent profile to Zach Wheeler, which scares me. The Reds have hit him pretty well in his career, but it sounds like he's made some pretty big improvements of late. Oviedo is a talented pitcher, and Brady Singer going for the Reds, a guy that I'm about as high on anyone except for Hunter Green, obviously. I love what Singer has done down the stretch in ERA, I think below 3 over his last 8 starts. Has pitched very, very well for the Reds, but the Reds are getting a big start out of Brady Singer because I don't think the Reds are just going to come out and beat around Johan Oviedo.
Yeah, there is all of these things that you're bringing up kind of, I think, scares Reds fans that have been paying attention. You remember Hurston Waldrop? Remember that guy? The guy
Yeah.
who they called up from in the middle of the night for the makeup of the NASCAR game, that came in and threw 6 innings of shutout baseball against the Reds straight out of the minor leagues. So, I think I'd be fine if I don't see that guy or see him in like 1 or 2 innings, or the Hunter Barco guy. So the pitching to me does, it's like they are going to be they're going to be throwing pitchers that are going to be able to get people out. And we've seen the Reds kind of snowball too, right? We've seen their offense go cold and go really cold, and not be able to pull themselves out of it. I'm hoping that there's just an urgency. I think there's something to be said too about playing more free and easy and that's what I think the Pirates probably have the advantage of, right? It's like they've got literally nothing to lose. Like they're just like, we're here, we're just trying to play our best baseball. And sometimes in baseball that's enough to, you're gripping the bat maybe a little less hard, and that's enough to get you wins. But hopefully, if you think about it, the Reds are kind of playing with house money too, right? The Reds have been dead and buried 7 times already, and now they find themselves with a playoff spot. So hopefully with this big crowd, it can be something that, allows them to play a little bit more free and easy, kind of like what we saw with the Cubs, obviously only scoring 1 run in 2 of those games that they still won. But it's just like being able to be free and easy and produce offensively and kind of not let the struggles get to the rest of the lineup, I think will be helpful and frankly necessary if they're going to be able to win a couple games here against the Pirates. Because man, you're right, they've got some really good pitchers that we're going to have to face.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I hope the Reds do play free and easy in the series. I hope that they don't come into this and be like, oh, well, now we're in a race. No, what playing how you've been playing has been working. And yeah, I mean, like again, you should approach this. We have no business being here. We're playing with house money, and I think that's the you should probably honestly almost always have that approach coming into late season, just because you don't want any added pressure there. Obviously, the Reds going to face Paul Skeens on Wednesday. Hunter Green versus Paul Skeens. We dissected that decision. The Reds could have moved Green up to Tuesday and then had him available on Sunday. They didn't do that. We won't rehash that. But then Braxton Garrett, another pitcher, he's been in and out of the bullpen. That's another thing to kind of watch with this series is if you can get these guys pitch counts up. The Pirates are not going to push any of these guys, and I think Skeens included. Even though it's his final start of the season, I doubt they're going to really, push him to 120 pitches or anything. So if you're able to get these guys pitch counts up, I think that's maybe the only thing that the Pirates will have their reins on in this series is not, they just don't want any stupid pitching injuries late in the year. But another factor, Mike, for this series, and it's eerily similar to 1999 for Reds fans. Ironically enough, the Reds end the year in Milwaukee, but there's now a dome, so a roof, so you don't have to worry about that anymore, at least in Milwaukee, unless, God forbid, that gets stuck or something, knowing the Reds' luck. But 50%, 57% chance of rain on Tuesday, 96% on Wednesday, and 88 on Thursday. So I know there's a lot of people that are asking me, well, what happens if a game gets rained out? Do they just not count those games? Do they then go to that? No, they will make sure these games get played if they're needed in terms of it mattering. Now, if the Reds were up a game and a half and a game got rained out, they wouldn't have to play that game. But if the Reds were only up a half game, they would have to. Well, I guess with the half game on the Mets, they actually still wouldn't need to play that game because it would still be technically ahead. But hopefully you get my point. So they would play those games on Monday. And if, God forbid, the Reds had 2 games rained out, they could have to play like a doubleheader on Monday and have pure chaos, which will just be terrible because the wild card series starts on Tuesday, and it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There's no off day. So you do not want to have to play on Monday. So I'm sure the Reds will try to do everything they can to get these games in. And Major League Baseball is going to obviously want them to get those games in as well. But that's something to watch and monitor. And hopefully Mother Nature gives the Reds a break. And at least when these games are scheduled to get played, they get a break in the weather.
Yeah, I might have some late post game shows like we're doing West Coast, even though it's a game at home. I mean, we can also hope that hopefully the Cubs and the Dodgers kind of take care of business too, because maybe we do have a couple rained out, but the Cubs take care of business against the Mets and the Dodgers take care of business against the Diamondbacks, and maybe it won't end up mattering after that. I think that would be ideal. If that was if we were
save the bullpen,
save the bullpen.
Don't have to play a game. They're supposed to play it on Monday, but hey, the Reds they get to Sunday with they get to the end of Sunday with a half game lead over the Mets, and you don't even have to play the game. And hey, we'll play 161.
There you go. I wonder what happens to the betting overs and things like that when stuff like that happens. I mean, I think the Reds are above any of their lines that they would have had to get to initially, but I would imagine Vegas would be thrown into a mess trying to figure out all of those things.
Yeah, it'll be something interesting to monitor. Maybe the Reds could somehow get lucky and Skeen's game gets rained out and he had to warm up, and almost like Spencer Strider.
Yeah,
I mean, it didn't work out for the Reds,
no.
so I don't want to get too excited about it. But hey, maybe the Reds could catch a break there. it's just something we'll have to monitor. And something else that's interesting about this series is that the Reds play before the Mets all 3 games. So Tuesday is at 6:40 for the Reds. The Mets play at 7:40. Wednesday, 6:40 for the Reds. The Mets play at 8:10. And then Thursday, the Reds play a day game. The Mets and Cubs play a night game. So this is one of the weird spots where if you score early in a game, it has like a much bigger impact because these teams know they have these scoreboards up in the stadium. These guys all check those scores, and if they see the Reds are up 3-0 in the second inning when they take the field, it adds an extra layer of pressure. Now, on the flip side, if they look up and see the Reds are down 3-0, that gives the Mets a bolt of energy as they take the field. So it's something to monitor because it absolutely, in my opinion, has some sort of psychological effect.
Yeah, I agree with that. You see on the broadcast, man, they're showing that it felt like when I was watching some of the Mets national series, it felt like they were showing those scoreboards about every other inning. So they're if not the players, the fans are also definitely paying attention to that, and we know how you know Mets fans can easily get thrown into a tizzy. I know that for this last series, they will, at least for that last game, that I'm pretty sure for the last day, they line up all the games so that you can't really do that. So it's just like everything starts at the same time in maybe 1 or 2 different windows so that there isn't any scoreboard watching or not necessarily scoreboard watching in that they want the competition to be clear still.
You
So it's
can't
just like,
manipulate your pitching. Yeah.
right. It's like, oh, this game's over. We see that, they lost earlier today, so we don't need to win this game. So here you go, Connor Phillips, you get to start the game for us, or Chase Petty, you get to start the game for us. You know what I mean? So it's just like they want to prevent something from that, like that happening. However, I don't think that that's going to come into play until the final series of the year.
Yeah, every game on Sunday it starts between 3:10 to 3:20. So it's pretty much everyone starts just about the same time. And yeah, I mean, barring a rain out, although I think the Reds and Mets are the Diamondbacks at home? I don't know. I don't know if the Diamondbacks are at home, but the Mets are playing in Miami.
No,
So they
at
don't
San Diego.
So San Diego is not really a place you normally have to worry about weather either. So there shouldn't be any weather issues on the final day of the season for the Reds, who will be in Milwaukee, for the Mets, who will be in Miami, and for the Diamondbacks, who will be in San Diego. I don't ever remember hearing a rain out in San Diego, but you know what? That'll end up happening now that I just threw that out into the world. Any final thoughts here, Mike, on this Pirate series?
Just one thing. I was thinking back because it felt like deja vu for some reason, and I looked back at the 2023 season, and I want to take everyone back to September 22nd, same day as today. Well, I guess it will be yesterday for the people listening in the morning. 2023, the Reds are 1 game back on the wild card, last home series of the year versus the Pirates. The 74 and 81 Pirates are coming to town. Average attendance was like 35 or 33,000 is about the average. So good on you, Cincinnati, for coming out to the ball games. I'm expecting huge crowds this weekend too, but the Reds lost 2 of 3, culminating in that loss on Saturday that I think is just ingrained in my brain, where the Reds were winning 9-0 and ended up losing. I think Alexis Diaz ultimately blew the rest of it. And the Reds would then go on to miss the playoffs by 2 games to the World Series bound Diamondbacks. So I guess I'm not saying this I'm not trying to rain on everyone's parade, but the reason why I'm saying this is that this is not, I think some people are pitting this as, oh yeah, let's just sweep the Pirates and move on. It's like, this isn't going to be an easy series. Just like then the team that supposedly had nothing to play for came in and ate our lunch. We need to do everything we can to prevent that from happening again, because they will love to play spoilers. I went in and read the quotes from that 11 or that game, and boy, Clint Hurdle was laying it on thick of how great it felt to beat them. And I was just like, oh, not only were they did they basically effectively make it so the Reds were, I think a 2.5 out by the end of that series, but like they relished it. So, we can't let them be there. The Pirates want to be spoilers here. And one thing for us is we have Ke'Bryan Hayes on our team now. He will, he was a part of that team and now is a part of the Reds and can clue them in. And, frankly, this is where you also hope that you can get some benefit from a Hall of Fame manager. I know this program has been very critical of some of the in-game decisions, the lineup decisions that we've seen out of Tito, but where I think we can all agree, I think we would like to agree, the major benefit that we would be able to get from a manager that has won a World Series, that has led multiple playoff teams, is that you would be able to hopefully get a team ready to play in a series like this. Not let down, not play down to your competition like we've done previously, but we would come ready to just get the job done against the Pirates. And so I think we got to hope that he's got some magic in there, some September Tito magic, and we need that to rub off today or this week because, boy, this could be a real big letdown, just like 2023. But I hope that it isn't. I hope that they can come out and secure the series win against the Pirates that are not going anywhere this year.
The one thing I like about the Reds versus where they were at in 2023 is in that series, the Reds started Andrew Abbott, who was absolutely toast in September 2023. Connor Phillips started game 2, and Brandon Williamson started game 3. So your Reds have Brady Singer, Hunter Green, and Nick Lodolo, guys that you're not only hoping can pitch well, but guys that have proven that they, for the most part, typically can pitch deep into the game. So that to me is what makes me a lot more confident, is that all 3 of those guys have the chance to go out and throw 7 shutout innings, and it's not even a surprise to anyone. Not say it's going to happen, not saying we should expect it to happen. Like if Brady Singer gives up 2 runs in the second inning, don't come out with pitchforks at poor Brady Singer. But yeah, I mean, but that's what is different in my opinion. Yes, I agree with the Tito effect to some degree, but the starting pitching to me is what makes me more confident. And the Reds have it lined up here, and it's lined up here, and it's not really lined up in Milwaukee, which is kind of why you really just want to take care of business now, and get to Milwaukee in a good spot. Deep South Commodities is a proud supporter of Chatterbox Reds and our Deep Drive of the Day, and DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. And we also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. Speaking of Milwaukee, we're not going to go too deep into that, but the Reds' next series was 3 games in Milwaukee, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Saturday picked up by National Fox. So the Reds winning ways got them on national TV on Saturday night. The Brewers are in an interesting spot. They currently are up 3 games. They're actually playing as we record this. They're up 3 games on the Phillies for the number 1 seed, but they also do win the tiebreaker. So ideally, Mike, I think you'd want the Brewers to have everything wrapped up before that series starts against the Reds, so they have absolutely nothing to play for. Not that they're, even if they lost all 3 games, with the 3-game lead now, they're probably still going to be in a good spot with the tiebreaker. But yeah, you would like them to have nothing to play for and just really be running out the strings. They're not planning on running. It doesn't sound like they're going to play and put any of their top starters in the game. But they have a nasty bullpen, and they're going to want to use all of those guys at some point this weekend, because they're not going to play again until the following Saturday. So after they finish up the season on Sunday against the Reds, they have 5 days off before they play again. So they'll want all their bullpen guys to at least get an inning, but no one's going to be pushed. And the one thing about the Brewers screwed the Reds a couple times in 2021 and 2023 because they like clinched early, and they were playing teams that the Reds were chasing, and they just completely crapped the bed. I'm hoping that we get this on the other side, because the Brewers have not really come into the postseason playing great because they wrapped up their season so early. So hopefully they're not, but they also might want to feel like they're playing good. So that's the weird thing about this week is it's just who you're it's not who you're playing as much as it's who you're playing and what is their motivation for the week.
Yeah, I also, man, going into games against the Brewers, a do or die against the Brewers feels like my worst nightmare. It's just like, can we please get the job done against the Pirates so we don't have to do that? Like the Brewers, the biggest Reds nemesis that's been out there for the last 5 years, haven't won a series against them in like since
13
2020.
straight series
Yeah,
losses.
it's just like, can we go into that series just needing one? Or having it basically wrapped up because of some of the Marlins decide that they want to get one over on the Mets. Like I can just see like, oh yeah, we've got it wrapped up. We're not going to play Christian Yelich. We're not going to play Contreras, and we get bopped around by Blake Perkins and Andrew Monasterio and Caleb Durbin. These guys that are their utility guys come in and absolutely, still hit great. So I just like, I really don't want it to come down to that. Maybe that's my shell-shocked Reds fandom coming into play here, but I really want them to take care of business here and against Pittsburgh so that we aren't going to be dependent on these must-win games in Milwaukee, because even though they aren't going to have anything to play with, they just seem to have our number. They just seem to have our number. And yeah, that's how I feel about it. I'm just like scared to death of that series. Just please hope that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm looking at last year. It looks like actually on the final day of the season. Now they played in the wild card round last year, so it was a little bit different of a scenario. They had to play 2 days later, but in the final game, they actually rested quite a bit of players in their lineup. So again, it'll be interesting to see. My guess is they probably give every one of their starters a day off this weekend, but
Sometime during the series.
maybe they want, 2 guys are off Friday, 2 guys are off Saturday, 2 guys are off Sunday, and kind of rotate through. But that'll be interesting. I don't know. I'm more nervous about the Pirates and the Brewers. I kind of feel like if Reds get to a position where they hold a playoff spot going into the Brewers series, yeah, I don't. I'm in the house money stage, and I'm like, you know what? Just let's go ahead and win this series against the Brewers. And that, I'm more nervous about just getting there. If they get there, I think I can be at peace with whatever happens. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird in that, but they get to that after everything that the Reds have been through this year. I'll be disappointed if the Reds don't make the playoffs at this point, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to like that 2023 disappointment where you felt like the team really played not hard. I think the team played hard all year, but the team played like great all year and did so many amazing things and just fell short at the end. Like this team, like we're not supposed to be here. So like I don't know. Maybe it's hard to judge how you'll feel in that moment with whatever happens, but I don't feel like I would have that same level of like just absolute despair. Just because I thought 10 times this year this was never even a possibility to even have a chance.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I'm just of the fact that it's like just get in. If we can play well, getting in there and I think uh, being hot going into the playoffs is almost more effective in what you're going to be able to do in the playoffs. You mentioned some of the last night. I think you mentioned some of the roster changes that would be for what you would do for a regular season to what the bullpen is, or what the you would see in a postseason game, because you have spread out because you have spread out games, I guess not necessarily in the first round, but if you were to make it to the divisional series or even the championship series, like you have spread out games, it almost feels like the Reds are like more built for that, at least pitching wise, right? You have three very good starting options that you would feel good about, plus starters that aren't bad that you would feel fine throwing in the bullpen, plus maybe like three or four really good relievers that are going to get days rest in between. And we've seen their issue be underproduction when they don't get enough rest. So it's like pitching wise, you feel great about being able to go into a series. And it just, can your offense come alive? Can Ellie get hot? Can Marte get hot again? Can somebody continue to carry us to hit enough to let this pitching carry you deep in the playoffs? And boy, if that's the case, man, that's gonna be exciting to see. Like, because I wouldn't, if we do sneak in, we got the Dodgers 2 out of 3 in Los Angeles. It's like, to me, that doesn't feel like an impossible task. Like, that doesn't feel like something that we wouldn't be able to do. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. We got to get in the playoffs first, but just like once we get there, man, I like our squad, specifically our pitching squad, up against almost anybody else.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I was thinking, like, the Dodgers, who would they rather play, the Reds or the Mets? And yeah, I mean, the Mets, obviously, you have Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso that can flip a series with a 3-run home run, and the Reds don't really have that. But I mean, you put the Reds pitching, especially if somehow the Reds were able to get there and they like don't have to. They have Singer, Green, and Lodolo available, and then you could have Abbott in the bullpen and Littell and Martinez and Burns and Santillan and Pagan in the bullpen. I mean, over a 3-game series, I mean, the Reds pitching compared to the Mets, like when you could stack those arms. I mean, I know they have Noah McLean who's pitched incredible for them, but like the Reds pitching is like so far superior to the Mets, especially if you condense it down to where the Reds can just throw all of their best guys. The Mets only have like a couple guys in Edwin Diaz and McLean that probably they feel good about right now.
Yeah, you're starting rookie Jonah Tong or Brandon Sproat in game 2. It's just like that's
Career innings limits that are way past, and
yeah. It's definitely it's definitely a toss up for it, and so once again, I feel good if we can just sneak on in, and I think this all just comes back to, boy, we got to take care of business here in Cincinnati against a last place team. Like, we need to go and we need to at least take 2 out of 3, so that we can hopefully have an edge going into what would be, the last 3 games of the season, because it's it's out in front of us now. It's like, these are the last 6 games. You called it a sprint. Let's go win each game. You mentioned earlier the ticket giveaways. It's been really cool to see different people, offering up tickets and talking about, let's get down there. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared, because I'm just like, my natural instinct was to be like, I want to avoid the disappointment of going to, like, getting one hit by Paul Skeens, or like going and Braxton Garrett goes 6 perfect innings on me or something like that. Like, that is my initial reaction. But then I had to psych myself up. You guys last night were helping me, just like, all right, guys, it's like, we're never going to have this chance. It's like, I'm pulling my kids out of school because they get to go and experience this too. It's like, this is not something that comes along. It's never come along at Great America Ballpark. And I want to experience that. I want my kids to experience that. I cannot wait to go down there. And maybe I'll leave heartbroken, but we'll have done it together, and we'll be able to talk back on it. Just like I was at the 1-game playoff loss in 1999 against the Mets, I can say that I was at this game as well, where maybe the Red season was cemented in a good way or in a bad way. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get down there on Thursday for the day game, and I'm excited to see how full the stadium's going to be, full of Reds fans cheering on this team coming in for the rest of this week.
Yeah, there's zero chance the kids will learn anything more important on Thursday than what they'll remember about going to that game on Thursday. You know, like the symmetry's here. Reds are in Milwaukee this weekend. That's where they were in 1999, the final series. I mean, let's end the year tied with the New York Mets in Milwaukee, and they don't get a 163 because they lose the tiebreaker. That's like putting all your demons to bed, you know, of it was. All right, let's talk about those stupid New York Mets and the Diamondbacks real quick. Just kind of give everyone a rundown of what they've got this week. So let's start with the Mets. They have 6 games on the road against the Cubs and the Marlins. The Cubs have a 3-game lead as we record this on San Diego. That could be 2.5 or 3.5, depending on how that game shakes out for the first wild card spot. Why is that important? Because the first wild card spot hosts that best of 3 series that the Reds are trying to get into. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So the Cubs, after losing 4 in a row to the Reds, they kind of need to win and not screw around and lose home field advantage because there'd be nothing worse for the Cubs than to, instead of playing at Wrigley Field, those 3 games. They don't switch cities. It is in one city. They would have to go to Petco Park, and the Padres are a completely different team at Petco Park in that atmosphere versus going on the road to Wrigley Field. The good news for the Reds, they caught a break because Cade Horton was supposed to pitch against the Reds. They bumped him back to kind of give him extra rest. The guy has a 0.93 ERA and 11 starts post All-Star break, so he'll start game 1. The not as good news, Matthew Boyd and Shoto Imanaga in game 2 and 3. Both are having good years, but struggling of late. They have not pitched very well of late. And then looking ahead to the Mets last series, looks like the Reds might catch another break because the Marlins completely adjusted their starting pitchers from what we were seeing. It looks like they're going to go Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, and Edward Cabrera for the final series. 3 definitely capable starters. All 3 guys have been inconsistent, but they're capable starters, especially against a Mets team that will have a lot of pressure on them. Hopefully will have a lot of pressure on them. Any thoughts kind of on the Mets? They're playing 2 interesting teams. The Marlins feel like the Pirates to me. Like it feels like almost the exact same situation there. The Cubs, I think that the Cubs are going to have to play well, but who knows what the Cubs' real motivation is coming into this series.
Yeah, I think that the Cubs just got embarrassed and are ready to, get back up from that. So Matt Boyd and Shota Imanaga, I believe, are both lefties, correct? So I think that potentially helps as well. Obviously, Juan Soto left-handed, Brandon Nimmo left-handed, McNeil left-handed. And I think Lindor is worse from the right side than the left side. So, I guess in a vacuum, you prefer lefties against the Mets as well. So that's helpful. And then the Marlins, I was trying to find, there's the Marlins, there's people on X. And obviously, there's delusional people on X all over the place, but just like, are like, oh no, we're 4 games out and we got 3 in front of the Mets. Like, let's go. We got go time. Like we got a shot to, run the table here. So I don't think we're going to have rollover Marlins here at all. I think they're like, hey, we're hot right now. It may be slim, but like, let's go for it. And it would be great. They came in, maybe win 2 out of 3 from the Mets. It's not enough to catch the Reds because they're 4 games back, but boy, that would be awesome. And just like give the Reds some breathing room because the Marlins had delusions of grandeur to get in here. So
yes and no, because the only way the Marlins can still be alive, but the Reds have to lose.
Oh, I guess that's fair. That's fair.
So this is what makes
thread a needle here.
This is what makes this week so crazy. Is there's like so many factors into everything because the Marlins are 4 games behind the Reds. So the only way the Marlins are still alive on Friday is if the Reds lose 1 game, and the only way the Marlins are still alive on Saturday is if the Reds lose 2 games. And the only way, it's crazy. And that's the only thing that could be, because the Marlins could, Mike, almost get defeated. Like if they really have this mindset and they get eliminated on Wednesday because the Reds, won 2 or 3 and they lost or whatever, then they might, have it's a crazy week. There's so many factors that go into this.
Yeah, and we talk about this kind of glibly of like, oh, they gave up or they won't do this. I don't think that there's too much actual like, oh, we don't, you know, maybe the Rockies have turned it in. I wouldn't expect that any of these teams that we're talking about have in any way, quote unquote, given up. Right? They're obviously still playing. They're playing for future contracts, and in some of these cases, they're playing for playoff seeding. So we would expect there to be like even the Brewers, who potentially won't be playing for anything, will have the number one seed locked up, are still like they're not going to, fully surrender these games. Of all the teams, though, like the vibes around the Mets are just awful right now. Like if they lose 2 out of 3 to the Cubs, I could see them just kind of saying, "All right, season's over, pack it in." Like just because of how it's been so far. So you never know with all these kind of things. We're kind of reading a lot into how they're going to feel or how they're going to. I don't know how much that actually has an effect on how they play. But when the Reds are in a situation now where they kind of control their own destiny, you'll take every advantage that you can get, right? Because every break is one closer to you securing a playoff spot. So if the Mets want to have bad vibes on the road for the rest of the year, maybe Pete Alonso played his last game as a Met in Citi Field, and now it's all downhill from here. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that taking over and let their implosion be complete.
Yeah, the Mets are a hard team to figure out. I mean, if that team went 6-0 this week, I don't think it would be the craziest thing in the world. If they went 0-6 this week, I don't think it'd be the craziest thing in the world. They've just been a volatile team, and I think in some ways, man, like that's what makes like Tuesday so important is that you don't let the Mets creep right back in, because if they pick up a game, if they pick up a game and they're ahead of the Reds going into Wednesday, all of a sudden the Mets just were resuscitated and they have a whole lease on life and they get to look at the whole week differently. So that's what does kind of make Tuesday feel very important. And the Reds could lose and the Cubs could help the Reds out and nothing really changes anything. And the Mets are still in the same spot. But yeah, just you don't want to lose a game at any point, but you really don't want to lose it on Tuesday and kind of let the Mets kind of catch their breath. The Diamondbacks, an interesting team that they're a scrappy team that just has continued to hang around. They won a series against the Phillies. They have a tough-ish schedule, maybe not. Again, who you're playing at the time of the year is interesting. They play 3 against the Dodgers. They're facing Ohtani, Snell, and Yamamoto, which looks terrifying on paper. Dodgers do, however, have a 3-game lead in the National League West. They hold a tiebreaker over the Padres, so I think their magic number is down to 2 and could go down if the Padres lose as we're recording this. So how motivated are the Dodgers in that series? They can't, I don't think, catch the Phillies or the Brewers for the bye. So yeah, it's the Dodgers who are the Dodgers, but I don't think you're not going to get the full out because the Dodgers are planning on having to play next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and are kind of trying to rest people. And then it gets even more. I think the Diamondback series over the weekend might be the easiest series of anyone because they're playing the Padres, who will have clinched almost assuredly. And they're at the spot of the rotation where it would be King and Pavetta's turns in the final 2 games, but they're not going to pitch because they're going to be set up for the wild card game. So you're not only facing a Padres team that is going to be resting guys, you're facing them at the spot of the rotation with the guys that they're going to have to replace with someone else, like a minor leaguer. Or so the Diamondbacks, you can't count that team out, Mike, because they have the one series at the end of the year that I think has the potential to be the easiest, just out of the fact that they're playing a team that might have nothing to play for, that has to rest guys.
Yeah. And I mean, you essentially have a 2-game lead on them now too, because you own the tiebreaker. So that is helpful. Like I can see him going crazy and then just not having enough, just because it's seeming like you're gonna have a hangover game for the Dodgers in one of those their first series, right? We saw that what happened with the Cubs, right? They clinched the next day, they go out and get one hit by Hunter Green, right? So it's just like I think that there's potential for one of those games in here as well in that series with the Diamondbacks, where hey, we clinched because it may not even be because they won, right? Maybe they lose too, but because the Padres lose or something like that, they're able to clinch. And then, so yeah, I'm with you. It's definitely a scary situation. You feel a little bit better because you have a little bit more of a cushion there. But man, you really want the Dodgers to take care of business here. And this is a team that sold at the deadline, sold bullpen, sold Eugenio Suarez, and just came back and has, come back from the dead. Back, I think at one point they won 8 or 9 in a row to get back into this. Their third base, at least like when I checked when we played them, their third baseman since they traded Suarez was doing almost 100 points better than Suarez was OPS plus wise. They call it Blaze Anderson and one other guy, and they've been better than what Suarez has been. So it's just like that's kind of how baseball works sometimes. And boy, I'm just kind of hoping with them it's like a little too late, which would be helpful. But you're right. We may see at the end there that our biggest push might be from the Diamondbacks and not the Mets.
Yeah, I would really not want to be tied with the Diamondbacks going into the final weekend. I want to at least have a 1-game lead on them, which is essentially, as you pointed, a 2-game lead, because they are, in my opinion, they're as dangerous as anyone just because of who they play. That last weekend, I have a hard time believing you're going to get a lot of help. Now, you could still win games because things just go quirky in baseball. The Padres could run out a AAA lineup and it'd still win. But yeah, you don't want to lose games. So hopefully the Dodgers play well. Hopefully they take that seriously. I would love just to have the Diamondbacks out of the equation, and at least it's just you're only worried about the Mets. But they're a team that you do have to still worry about, as crazy as that sounds. So hopefully they can continue. One final parting thought here, Mike. I want to ask you this week, who is one key player that you are watching? If you want me to go first, I can go first.
Well, you go first.
All right. So my guy is Tyler Stevenson. Tyler Stevenson is the only player on the Cincinnati Reds roster that was on the 2020 playoff team. He's it. Tyler Stevenson is like the veteran of this team. He had some big hits this last week. Tyler Stevenson is kind of like a veteran. He's a free agent after next season. I think Tyler Stevenson is the guy that's going to have a big week this week. And he's the guy I'm looking. I mean, there's a whole lot of other, obviously, Ellie De La Cruz and my guy Will Benson and Steers played well. You can go down all of them. But Tyler Stevenson is the guy for me that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about, but I think could be the guy that has that big week, and kind of has that veteran type leadership.
Yeah. All right. I think my guy that I was actually contemplating whether to bring him up earlier is Matt McLain. Matt McLain, obviously, this has not been a year that we will look back on fondly with Matt McLain, right? Took some had some real lumps at the beginning, some really low lows. We were batting him second for a long time, and it just really didn't work out. But has started to put it together in September. And while there's still some bumps in the road, and we still got him batting ninth, man, I think that he has really been able to wind into somebody that's able to contribute at the bottom of the lineup and turn it over to the top of the lineup to be able to produce runs, right? We obviously had the home run. I think he had a home run in the second game against the Cubs, and he's starting to walk a little bit more as well, getting some better swings on pitches, driving the ball to the right side. He's I think somebody that I think we could very easily look back and is like, wow, he had a 4 for 12 series or whatever with 4 RBI, including the game winner in one of them. So he is somebody under the radar that I think has been surging a little bit, has been coming in and obviously still playing pretty good defense at second base, and is somebody that could really have an effect on on this Reds team. I have a bonus one too. This is all intangibles, and it's Ke'Bryan Hayes, right? I mentioned earlier he was on that Pirates team. He's against his old team who traded him away, who basically
salary dumped him.
Was having the worst offensive season. Like you thought I think OPS wise, Ke'Bryan Hayes was having a worse OPS season than Matt McLain was before he got traded over here. Has come over, has been incredible defensively. He's been very good offensively. Struggled recently. I think he's over his last 19 or something like that. Having some back issues, but I think intangibly we might be able to see him be able to bring something that's going to help us be able to, crack the code of these late season Pirates, understand and get this team in the right headspace to go out and beat his old team. He's gonna be properly motivated to it. It's like, hey, you traded me away to a team that's now in the playoffs. Look at me now. It's like, let's see a nice little revenge series out of Ke'Bryan Hayes as well.
All right, I'll do a bonus one too. You sucker me in. A guy that I haven't necessarily think has had a great season and has kind of in some ways been a disappointment, Gavin Lux. Lux is 4 for 8 with 2 doubles against Paul Skeens. I don't think Lux's game is necessarily what I love over 162 games, but over a 6-game stretch when there might be games where like a base hit is really what you need. Like Lux does kind of have a shorter swing that against dominant pitching, I think he has a better chance sometimes than some other guys. He's a guy that I think could, and he seems like a guy that kind of embraces those big moments too. So he's another guy that I would watch this week that I think could have some sneaky, really, really, really big hits. And we'll see.
You're right. I mean, played in a World Series won a World Series last year. Also, great eye at the plate. You mentioned earlier how the Reds are going to need to put together some good at bats against their starting pitching that might have a short leash. You can see Gavin Lux going up and having 6-7 pitch at bats where he goes 3-2, and maybe he doesn't end up having a productive out, but ultimately set the table for maybe a shorter outing, or maybe the Cowboy talks about how a 1-10 pitch at bat can shorten a starter's outing by a whole inning if in the right spot. It's just like that is the unseen stuff that you might be able to get out of Gavin Lux, especially with good pitching. So I'm with you. I'd love to be able to see that, even if it means no Sal Stewart.
Well, Mike, this has been a lot of fun. I think we said we'd do about 20 minutes. Well, we're well past an hour. It's impossible when you get talking Reds baseball. And this time of the year, you got to be excited. And my last words as we wrap this up is just embrace this week, man. No matter how you felt about this team, where you feel about all the external factors about the Reds, just embrace this opportunity that the Reds have. Try to enjoy it. If they lose on Tuesday, don't have to throw a temper tantrum online. Like, just let's move on the next day. They've actually are in a spot where if they lose on Tuesday, the season doesn't end. Like, that's what's so crazy about what they've done to get here. So try to enjoy this week. And let's see if our Reds can do something crazy. Never in the history of this entire franchise had the Reds trailed a series. Had the Reds trailed for a playoff spot after September 10th and come back to make the playoffs. This could be the first year, and we'll be here on Chatterbox Reds to break it down every step of the way. I'll be on every single post-game show, Lord willing, this week, and we'll have a lot of fun. And if they're in the playoffs, we'll have lots of content, lots of other content here on Chatterbox Sports, Chatterbox Bengals, which Mike is a big part of. They have a lot of content on that. The Stone Shield Show, Off the Bench. Links to all that is in the episode notes below in your podcast feed. If you're watching on YouTube, you're already on Chatterbox Sports. So click around and find all the other great content. New FC Cincinnati podcast episode, Flying Lion. They did a live show Monday night, so be sure to check that out. And we'll be here along for the ride. Well, appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate you, Mike. Talk again soon. Go Reds.